All right, hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome to a basics culinary class all about salsa. We're calling this the Salsa Symposium. Um, and so we're just going to go through three salsa recipes that sort of uh, capture a variety of types of salsa. Um, and we're just going to go through them, look at some technique. Hopefully, we'll get all three made, but at least we'll get through all the basic techniques for making a nice salsa. And I was just honing up the knife a little bit, and so I've got my steel here, and I've got my chef's knife. And to hone the knife, I'm just running it at about a 20-25 degree angle down the steel there, and making sure I have a good sharp knife, because to cut tomatoes, which we're going to be doing a bit of this afternoon, you need a sharp knife, right? So I feel that is sharp. And a couple other things that are handy for this is a blender or a food processor. Two of the recipes we're going to be working on use the food processor. Um, so I always forget to take my hat off so you guys can see this view. Backing up a little bit, my name is Sam. I'm a chef here at Basics Market, and I'm presenting these recipes. We have a monthly rotation of recipes, and we're always developing new stuff. And these recipes can be found online at basicsmarket.com, as well as previous classes and um, skill videos, and a lot of recipes, as I mentioned. So the salsas, oh yeah, and then there's recipe cards are in the store as well, and they're really pretty and nice to have in your special basics recipe card catalog, right? And everyone has a scrapbook, I'm sure, of these, right? I know I have a binder with a whole bunch of them falling out. Um, all right, so this card is called Salsa Fest, and let's just go right through it. If you're kind of following along with me, for the sake of the class, I've already grilled off a bunch of vegetables, and so that's one thing that's really nice with a couple of these recipes, or all of them actually have a component of a grilled vegetable or chili or something, and that adds a really neat like background flavor and some depth of flavor to your salsa. Um, so the first one is called salsa quemada, and that quemada actually means burnt. So once I learned that, I was like, well, great, because I'm going to be burning up some chilies and stuff, right? And so the first step with that one, and these are great for like an outdoor grill, or you can use a skillet. Like we have a skills video up right now with how to char a pepper with a skillet, or over a gas flame is another way to do it. I use the broiler back here. There's a gas grill, so the flames come up, and it goes really nice on that. You can also, a handy way to do it is just put your veggies on a sheet pan, put them under the broiler of your oven, and that's a really nice way to do it. With any of these things, tongs are good for, of course, handling the hot chilies and tomatoes and garlic and so forth. So let's have a look here. So we put our whole Roma tomatoes right on the grill, and what happens is they get good and soft and charred, and so they're starting to juice out a little bit. Um, so there's only two steps to this one, right? So I've got all that stuff charred off, and now we're going to peel the garlic and stem the chilies. And then we're just going to throw everything into the food processor and whack it up. So let's go ahead and start by peeling some garlic. So we're using 2 cloves of garlic, and the peel comes off really nice after it's been grilled. It's all dry and you don't get any of that stick, right? And then, of course, as always, I like to mention, have your compost bowl handy um, for all your compost scraps. It makes an easy cleanup. All right, so boy, roasted garlic just smells so good, right? So I'm just going to drop those 2 cloves right in the old dealio there, and then we're going to do a serrano or a jalapeno. So here's a jalapeno that's all charred up, and here's a serrano. The jalapeno is a little milder and it's a little larger of a pepper. The serrano's a little skinnier and tends to be a bit spicier generally than the jalapeno. Um, so we're just going to stem these, or one of them, and we're going to leave the seed on. And let's go with the serrano. So to stem it, I just simply popped off the end stem, and we're going to leave the seeds in there and just drop that right in your food processor or blender. And then we've got a 1/4 cup of white onion. So the white onions char up really nice on the grill. And I have a 1/4 cup measure here, and I imagine it's going to equal about a 1/4 of the onion. Um, and and then with the red onion in the pico de gallo, which is our last salsa this evening, we shall look at how to get into an onion a little bit. So yeah, it's a 1/4 of an onion. This white onion, which was an average size white onion. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to put a little bit of salt. And so a 1/4 teaspoon of salt is a good pinch of salt. And I'm using kosher salt. Kosher salt is really all I like to use for cooking. It has a nice coarse grain for pinching, and you can really keep track of the amount you're using. Also, once it's in the dish, it dissolves a lot quicker than other like table salt or sea salt, so you can taste your level of sodium quicker, and that prevents you from over salting. And kosher salt is a salt which has been baked. Goes through a baking process, and it somehow gets those cells to open up on a molecular level. So anyway, that's the salt. And then we're also going to do a 1/2 bunch of cilantro into the food processor. So here I have, this is actually 2 bunches. So I'll take 1/2 of that, and then that's 1 bunch. This is really great cilantro today. And I'll take 1/2 a bunch. Now, one trick to clean, it's like cilantro and Italian parsley. These things sometimes have a lot of dirt in the leaves and stems and stuff like that, hidden pockets of dirt and stuff, dust. So what I like to do is I get a really large bowl, larger than this, but as an example, this is a bowl, and fill it with cold water or keep it under in the sink of some cold running water. And then I put my cilantro or parsley, what have you, in there, and I just let the water run, and I put it in that and whack it around in the bowl a little bit, and then all the dirt will settle to the bottom of the bowl, and then you'll have a nice clean leaves. So that's a good cleaning trick with the cilantro. Now, to cut the leaves off of the cilantro, I think we can, we're going to use the stems as well. And so if I was just doing using the leaves, I could shave them off like this. And I'm going to do that just for fun and to separate them a little bit. And then the stem will simply cut across. And so with cilantro, you can use the leaves and stems. It all tastes the same. And so like with parsley, the stems can be a little bitter compared to the leaves, but cilantro, the stems are good to eat, and often it gives you a little more material to work with and some different textures sometimes if you're doing a dish that's going to have some textural variety. Okay, so half of a lime. So I have a few limes here. I'm just going to roll it around on my board a little bit to get the juices activated. And then I've got a couple squeezing methods here. This thing is fun. And it's a citrus juicer. And then the old reamer is always a handy tool for it. So we'll utilize both of these during the course of this symposium. So let's go ahead and we'll use this one first. And so I put the lime in with the skin side up with this, and this way it doesn't squirt me in the eyeball, and really squeezes out all the juice because it just pushes it inside out, sort of. So that's a really neat little gadget. So that's that. And then we have a teaspoon of olive oil. So olive oil is good here. Avocado oil is another great oil to use in salsas, and the oil is simply it's going to give it a little bit of richness, of course, and also just help smooth it out, kind of give it a little bit of cohesiveness. Okay, so I think that is all the stuff. Well, I guess I got ahead of myself. So the oil and the lime juice actually would go in after we spin it around, but it's too late now. So that's me showing you what not to do. Hold back on the oil and the lime juice till after you whiz this thing around a little bit. And let's see if I can figure out. Oh, maybe this is broken. Uh-oh. I guess I should have tested the equipment. I might have to switch to a blender real quick. Let's see.
While you're doing that, I do have a question.
Oh, I see. It's the old backwards lid trick. Someone booby trapped me.
We have a question about if you don't want as much heat
Oh, yeah.
from the pepper,
Right.
what can you do to still have that taste, but not necessarily the heat?
Yeah, so for any of these salsas, there's like, a couple easy ways to cut down on the heat. You use less chili, of course, seed the chilies, because a lot of the heat in a chili pepper is on the seeds, and that's where you'll get the oil, the chili oil. So, yeah, you can seed them, and we're going to seed a pepper in a minute here, or just use like half a chili. Also, instead of the serrano, and like for example, in this one, you could use jalapeno, and maybe just use half, and that'll cut down on your heat a little bit. Oh, and we probably should add some tomatoes, right? And so we have our 5 aromas. So I'm going to throw those in as well. Now we're cooking. And so with the food processor, you can take this to any degree you want as far as how smooth you want it. looks pretty nice. A little more. And looking good. And of course, to taste your salsa, you need tortilla chips, right? And I've been eating plain tortilla chips, dying for the salsa. It's good. It would be better if I'd waited to put the lime and the olive oil in, probably. But it's pretty good. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a little bit of this in a bowl so I can keep snacking. And then I'll put the rest in a jar. Mason jars are really good for storing your salsa. I've got here what is this thing called? A funnel. Woo! And I got the mason jar, and then we'll pour the salsa in there. And so this salsa is good for several days in your refrigerator. So salsa like this is, it's best used fresh. Salsa, I mean, we are looking at Cinco de Mayo tomorrow, celebrating the Mexican army driving Napoleon out of Mexico. And so the salsa, these three salsas are of Mexican origin, and salsa actually was first produced by Aztec, Incas, and Mayans, the native peoples of Mexico. And then the Spanish started calling these condiments salsas, which simply means sauce, in the 1500s. So here's what the comida looks like. It's this one's really green, almost a verde because of all that nice cilantro. But you can see it also has some red and a variety of color. So that's a good one. And then I've got some lids. And so you can just pop a lid on there and then refrigerate. And as I mentioned, you've got a few days to eat that. And in Mexico, you'll find, traditionally there's always salsa on the table. And in Mexican American restaurants, it's served as an appetizer often with chips, but in Mexico proper, it's just something on the table, and you'll put it on all kinds of, your grilled meats, and of course tacos and all kinds of stuff. So there's that. I'm going to give this a quick rinse. Please bear with me. Let's get some of this salsa out and prepare for the next salsa. So the next salsa, put this where we can keep an eye on it, make sure it doesn't run away. The next salsa is the salsa verde. So salsa verde means green. Salsa verde is green in Spanish. And it gets its name from the tomatillo. And here's a tomatillo. So the tomatillo is a Mexican native and South American native tomato, member of the nightshade family. And it's really neat because it has this papery skin on it. Now, it can be kind of bothersome getting the skin off because it in its raw state, it's real sticky, and it gets sticky all over your fingers when you're trying to handle it and stuff. But there is a very simple solution. And what I did before the class here is I boiled some water, threw the tomatillos in there just for like 10, 20 seconds. And then the peel, and I saved this one to peel for us, it just flows right off. And so in Mexican cuisine, where there's a lot of tomatillos and garlic, they'll have a bowl of hot water, or a bowl and some boiling water, put your tomatillos and your garlic in there, dump the hot water over it, and then those peels will just pop right off. And so that's a little trick with the tomatillo. And then here they are, the tomatillos after they've been on the grill. So I peeled the outer peel off, the husk, I guess it would be called, and then I threw them on the fire and got them nice and charred, and then they softened up. So a raw tomatillo, it's going to be really bitter, but once you grill them or roast them, uh, apply the heat, they get much milder and almost have kind of a sweet flavor. Okay, so let's look at what we're going to do with this. So as I mentioned, I have already grilled off all this stuff. So I have my peppers, my tomatillos, my onions, etc., all grilled. Um, Now I'm going to stick them all in the food processor. And this one, I'm not going, I'm not going to add the salt or the cilantro till I'm ready to serve. Okay, so we're going to throw everything in here up to the salt and cilantro, and then I'm going to stop. And so remind me if I start throwing that cilantro in there. And along those lines, if you have any other questions or comments besides trying to keep me on track, um, or in addition to, I should say, um, you can shoot those at us on your question button there. And we have someone here to relay your questions. And I think we might have a question. Is
We
it
do,
so?
Sam.
All right.
The question is, can a blender be used instead of a food processor?
Yes, you can use a blender, a food processor. You could, just chop all this stuff up too. It'll be kind of messy, but there's no reason, not to. You could use one of those immersion sticks, um, that would work well. Um, yeah, blender's fine. And again, you just take it to that point that of smoothness you want. Okay, speaking of that, let's go ahead and do this. So here's those green onions and grilled and kind of limp. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just give these a little whack. So anything that's kind of seems a bit bulky or cumbersome, you can chop it down a little bit before it goes in your blender or food processor, and it will just facilitate a smoother uh, blending. Um, and then next we have our Serrano chilies. And here we're going to go ahead and seed these guys. So we pull out a couple Serranos here, a couple nice black ones. Um, and let's see what we can do. So I'm going to pop the stem off, and uh, and then we're going to seed them. So when handling the chilies, you want to wash your hands afterwards before you touch your face or anything really, because the oil can transfer and it can burn. If you touch your eyes, it hurts. Um, I milk or dairy product can help with the burning sensation. Um, I do have one kind of funny story about a cook I worked with in some chili peppers. I worked at a restaurant, and one of the things on the menu was a jalapeno corn pancake. So we're always working with these raw jalapenos. And this one guy didn't know not to wash his hands after handling the jalapenos. So he did a bunch of jalapeno work, and then he went to use the restroom, and boy, he came running back through the kitchen, and he was like, ah! And so I saw him go by, and he went to a refrigerator, and then he came out with a giant, like king size thing of sour cream, and ran back towards the bathroom. And then he returned to the kitchen, and he was like, ah, and and the sour cream we didn't use obviously after that. So anyway, applying dairy, yogurt, sour cream, or milk will help with your aches and pains. All right. And it, that's my favorite chili pepper story. All right. Okay, so we have that half of a white onion, and oh yeah, here's the one I had cut already in 4 pieces. So if you cut your onion into quarters before you grill it, you get more uh, surface grilled, which is really handy. Um, more grill, more blackened means more flavor, and so that is awesome. So we have that in there, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to throw in those tomatillos. So um, with the tomatillos, where they're just husked, and then they can just pop right in, and super easy. Now, as I promised, I'm not going to put the cilantro or the salt in, but I will put some lime juice in. And so we're going to go ahead and put a whole um, lime juice, the juice of one whole lime into this. And again, I'm just kind of preparing it to get juiced. And that involves just rolling it around a little bit on the cutting board, getting those juices flowing, cut it in half. And then for this, let's go ahead and use the reamer. And, uh, and this is a real direct method, works great. And these are available in all sorts of material. I suppose you could just use a big stick and get the same result. But this is a fine tool. All right, so there we go. Now, let's go ahead and see if I can get this food processor to work. Woo! And there we have our verde. So that's nice and easy. And the tomatillos, they smell really sweet. Smell very good. Okay. And then we have a lot of beautiful char you can see in there, which is just going, like I mentioned, it equates to flavor. And again, we'll use the funnel and a mason jar. Get a lot of that stuff in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and serve myself a little bit of this, and I will apply the cilantro and salt. And do that now. So a little pinch of salt. Now you can add oil to this one as well. And you know, why don't we just put that on at the end too? Might be kind of a cool thing. And then a little bit of cilantro. The thing with salsas is, there's not really any rules. Salsa, and this sort of table condiments are really fun because you can really go, if you have like a backyard garden or something, you can grab stuff out of your garden and just utilize it and make all kinds of unique and delicious salsas and table condiments. All right, let's give this one a go. Green salsa verde. Delicioso. All right. Well, yeah, the tang of the tomatillo is really fabulous. Very nice. Okay, so here's our salsa verde, and it's We almost have two salsa verdes really here now. All right. So we've got a salsa verde, the salsa quemada, and now for a real classic, right? The pico de gallo. Um, so pico de gallo is a fresh salsa. We're going to be using a little bit of a roasted element in. I did grill off the poblano, and again, I just threw this over the flame. But you could do it in a skillet, in the broiler, um, over your gas burner. Um, these are all over a campfire, whatever you've got is a good way to char off a pepper. Um, and then this recipe, it called for Roma tomatoes, and since I used Roma tomatoes already in one of the recipes I wanted to try, I wanted to use something a little different, and also just to sort of reiterate that point that you can use anything you can get your hands on really, and so in tomato season, um, hopefully there'll be a lot of variety of neat tomatoes either that you've grown or in the market, and feel free to mix and match and get some neat color in there. Pico de gallo translates to the rooster's beak, and that it comes down to that you're eating it and you kind of make a shape of a rooster's beak as it goes into your mouth, and that's where the name comes from. And so this is a real fundamental salsa method, right? So we're going to go ahead for this one. I'm just going to use a bowl, and we're going to chop everything up and put it in the bowl. So let's have a look. I have the tomatoes here. So our recipe calls for half a pound of Romas in half-inch dice. So uh, I've got this really nice kind of like black tomato, I think this would be called. And then I've got some on the vine that just were nice and ripe. And so when I'm making a fresh salsa like this, I'm looking for a ripe tomato, hopefully just plucked right off the vine. But in the summer you can find great tomatoes in the market, and then all year round, usually these guys on the vine are going to be they can ripen up nicely. Even if when you buy them, they're kind of firm. If you just let them sit for a little bit, they'll ripen up and continue to ripen well on the vine. Okay, so this is about half a pound. And so I'm going to go ahead and um, we're going to go ahead and pour these tomatoes. Um, so there are like little tomato cores, and once I went to a demo with a chef friend of mine was doing a demo in a like a kitchen store, and he had some tomatoes. I forget what I think he was making tomato sauce or something, but so he had to core the tomatoes, and he was supposed to use they were selling a tomato core, which is a thing, it's like a little scoop thing. It is real handy. But he said, this is my tomato core right here, and I don't have a tomato core out, so I also am going to follow his lead and just use this knife. Which works great. You just want, of course, as always, be careful with your knife. I'm grabbing it by that balance point between the blade and the handle, and using my thumb and forefinger. And then with this guy, I'm just kind of going around and an angle towards the inside of the tomato, like a 45-degree angle. And then that little stem will pop right out. And and so you can make a choice here, whether you want to seed the tomato or not, and that's a personal choice. Some people don't like tomato seeds, or maybe you just maybe it's an aesthetic thing and you don't want to see tomato seeds in this batch of pico, and that's fine. You don't have to. So to take the seeds out, you just take a spoon. I just happen to have a little teaspoon measure here, so I'm going to use this and use my compost bowl, of course, and you just can pop those seeds right out. I don't mind the seeds, and it gives you again more material. And then if you're going to core this as well, you can use the spoon and just take. I mean, there you take out the whole seed packet, right? Which is real easy to do. And then you've got that's your core and your seeds. So you know that is a good method to get those seeds out. But with it, you do lose some of the juice and stuff. And I kind of want this guy to be a little bit juicy. So I'm not going to core all of those, all these tomatoes. And also, I just want to save a little time for us because we're in this class. But please feel free to, core the tomatoes if that's what you would like. All right. So I'm just cutting them across and then across again, and this will get us into the 1/4-inch dice territory. And these don't have to be perfect dice; it can be a rough chop. And I guess I'll pour another one just because we do pour in the recipe right in it. I do want to follow a recipe, and I don't know. Sometimes I just rebel, and I'm working on it. Okay, so here we go. Choppy chop. And then we get all those in. And when you're doing this, you can be thinking about the size of how it's going to be, like how you're utilizing this. Like maybe if I was really wanting this just as a chip dip, I might go a little smaller. But if I was using this for eating on steaks or grilled tofu or something, I might go bigger with my chunks. And here I'm doing a different method of getting the stem out. I just cut the tomato in half, and then I'm cutting a V shape, and then another good way to get a stem out of the tomato. And then from here, you can cut it in. This works especially well with larger varieties of tomatoes. You go ahead and quarter them, and then once again you can. In this way, you can kind of attack the seeds from the side, and then they come right out, and then you don't have to deal with those pesky seeds in your salsa. So I'm going to do half and half on this one. I'm going to leave half the seeds and half without. How about that? And we'll have a semi-seeded one. Yeah, so it's sort of whatever your preference is. But yeah, I think using a variety of tomatoes is kind of fun. But Romas are a good tomato for this, as they have great color and they hold up well. And again, you just want to find nice ripe ones. But here we're using this black tomato, I should say, and a few vine tomatoes. Okay, so there's our tomatoes. Now let's look at the onion. So I've got the red onion, and as promised, I don't know that we ever do a class where we don't cut up an onion, and that's just part of most dishes, right? Some onion. So this is a nice big red onion. We only need a couple tablespoons. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut off the stem end first, and this will create a flat surface. And then I can go ahead and cut through the root end, and I'm going to cut right down the middle. And then I can save this half of the onion, and I'm going to leave the skin on, the peel on, and it'll hold up better for me. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to quarter it because I don't need so much onion. And then I've got this nice quarter, and the peel should pop right off like so. And then what's cool about leaving the root end on is then it's holding all this material together. And that's, makes it a little easier to cut up as well. And so we're just looking for two tablespoons here. So I'm going to go ahead and slice it down to that root end. And again, it's held together except where I sliced a bit off here. And then I can go across, and I have an instant dice because of the way the onion is layered. And I'm just cutting right across those layers, and then you get that beautiful dice immediately. So a couple tablespoons of that in there. And then I have extra for my next batch of salsa. And I'm good to go there. Okay, now let's go for some more cilantro. And this is about a third of a bunch. And for this, we're going to go ahead and coarsely chopped, which that is always a good instruction. So, and I think again, we're going to go ahead and oh no, here we're not using the stem, we just want the leaves. So this is a good chance to use the technique of shaving the cilantro leaves off. And then we're going to give that coarse chop. I'm just going to run my knife back and forth, kind of keep my tip down and do a semicircle across the material here. When you want to scrape the board and kind of gather your cilantro, use, or anything else on this board like my onions, use the back of your knife, and it's a good flat surface so you can get right to the board, and also you won't dull your nice sharp blade. Okay, so here's our rough chopped cilantro. Throw that in there. And now I think we're going to go ahead and get into some green onions. So green onions, sometimes these are called scallions, same thing. So I simply rinse these, and then I peel off the outer leaves, which sometimes are a little funky, and then you'll get down to that good stuff. And we're going to go and we're going to slice them. Take the root end off, just right off the end there, and slice across. And we're using the white and the green. And we'll get some nice little rings of green onion that can go in your bowl. All right, we're getting to it. Now finally, the jalapenos. So I have a couple jalapenos here, and we're going to go ahead and stem and seed these guys and mince them. So Again, if you want a milder salsa, what if you want a totally mild salsa, don't put any chilies in it. But then that won't be too exciting. You could might as well add a little bit, so you could add a quarter or half a chili. But these are jalapenos and which are milder, and then some other chilies, right? And and, and we're going to stem and then seed them, and by taking out the seeds, of course, they'll be even milder. So I took the stem, which is at the top end of the chili, off, and then I sliced them in half and exposed the seeds. And so a teaspoon, again, is a good, just like a regular spoon is a good tool here, better than a measuring spoon, but I just happen to have this measuring spoon handy, so I am going to utilize it. And I'm just going to pop the seeds out. And of course, remember to wash your hands after you do this. Okay, so there we have our jalapenos seeded. Now to mince the jalapeno, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to cut them into julienne strips. And julienne is just that nice long cut. And if I guess if the French had stayed in Mexico, there'd be a lot more julienning going on, and a lot maybe, I don't know, but yeah, it is a French term. Okay, now we're going to mince. And to mince, I'm just going across, and I feel pretty comfortable with doing both jalapenos at a time. But anytime you're using the knife and it doesn't feel comfortable, just put less stuff under the blade, and do what's comfortable for you, to where things aren't moving around too much, because that's when accidents can happen. Okay, so mince that up pretty good. And that's a lot of nice jalapeno. And we'll pop that in there. Okay, now we're getting down to the nitty gritty. We're going to go ahead and put a tablespoon of olive oil. So before I do that, I am going to give this a little spin. I just have like the spatula spoon thing here. And give it a spin around. And just kind of get all the nice tomato juice and everything marinating a tad. Okay, let's put a tablespoon of olive oil. And then again, we have a whole lime to juice. So we'll go, let's do a half and half on this one. We'll do one to see which juicer reigns supreme. So see how that's so cool, right? It just turns that thing inside out, gets all that juice out really quickly. And this, if you're doing like a ton of juice, like making lemonade or something, it's pretty worthwhile to have one of those deals. And then here's the reamer. Also works great. And then of course the old hand, or mano, as in Spanish, is the original juicer. And that works also. Okay, then we got our salt and pepper. So a quarter teaspoon of salt. Again, this is kosher salt here. Got that, and then a little pepper. And you can do the salt and pepper to taste, It's good to taste your salsa and adjust the salt and pepper if you like. Just remember, you can't take salt and pepper out of it. So, go in slow, see what it's like, and you can always add more. All right. So there's the pico de gallo, and let's put a little of that in a bowl. It looks great. And then let's put the rest in this jar for later. And again, you have like about 3 days on this stuff, 3-4 days, something like that. And it's something it's nice to make fresh often. The fresher, the better. And I think we have a question. Yeah.
Do you recommend making the salsa a day before you serve it to enhance flavor?
That is a good idea. I think it tastes pretty good. Well, let's see. I mean, before I answer that question, let's have a taste of it. If it's terrible, for sure. Well, it already tastes pretty good, but yes, after a day, I think it will taste better, and that's like where we say the flavors are marrying, and with salsas like this, and with soups, I've known of soup kitchens, so to speak. People who just make soup, they'll often make their soups a day in advance before they'll put them up for sale, because all those flavors are going to commingle and kind of balance, and it's not a bad idea to make it a day ahead. But again, make it often. Oh, I think I forgot one thing here. And see, there's always the exciting thing that I forget. So it's a poblano, and this should be in there too. So poblanos, we're just going to treat it like a giant jalapeno. Take the stem side off, and then you've got a good fat seed pack on this one, and pop that out. And this poblano has been roasted. And so with the poblano, we could skin it because it's a little bit of a heartier, almost like a bell pepper skin. And so once a pepper has been roasted, it's really easy to take the skin off. And this gives a little bit fibrous. So I'm going to take that off. And then we're just going to mince this guy up. And I'll add that to the salsa. And that was, I guess that was the exciting and unexpected thing I did today. Well, one of them, right? And now, more questions? And then I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit there in my taster, because I don't want to miss out on the poblano. And then I'm going to go ahead and use my spatula deal. We'll stir that in, and that should add some nice mild chili flavor. And the poblano is usually not spicy at all. So if you really don't want it to go spicy, put the poblano in there, and it'll give you good flavor, but not a lot of heat. Okay, and so there we go, a trio of salsas. And get everyone ready for Cinco de Mayo tomorrow, and salsas forever. And I hope everyone enjoyed themselves. I know I have been enjoying this, and it's a lot of fun to roast up your vegetables on a grill. Get that flavor, get all that good roasty flavor. Garlic is super good after it's been on a flame. Gets sweet and lovely, and got to play with a few different kinds of chili peppers and onions, and of course the cilantro. And I hope everyone gets to utilize these recipes. And once again, my name is Sam, and I'm a chef here at Basics Market. We have 5 locations around the Portland area. You can find all these lovely ingredients, as well as many other things for your cooking. Um, Check out our meat markets and our vegetables. We do a lot of our own agriculture. We make our own butter, cheese, have our own dairy for milk. So look at our products if you haven't had a chance to yet. And of course, come join me next week. We'll be back to Wednesday next week. Um, or actually next week you'll be, or tomorrow, you're going to be hanging out with Lindsay if you join us. And she's going to show you some nourishing desserts. And then the following Wednesday, um, I'm going to go into some really great cinnamon rolls. And we're going to do cinnamon rolls. And then beyond that, some steak classes and some chicken classes. So please keep coming back, and you can give us your questions and comments to thebasicsmarket.com. And happy cooking.